Yes, yes, y'all. You are now listening to the sound of the shofar blowing. The shofar is a ram's horn that is blown to inspire the people to do their thing. And the shofar is blown to coordinate a queen or a king. And today the shofar is being blown to call us to connect back to nature. This is Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shophar, from Faux Show Energy Work. And today my guest is Riziki Zafira. And I'm asking her to actually pronounce her last name on that, too. I might jack that up, but I apologize. My guest, what she does is she's a transformation and empowerment coach, does sacred, sexuality with Tantra, and she's also a Vedic astrologer and also Yoni Steam Practitioner. And so I'm going to bring the sister on here. When I came across her work and she reached out to me, definitely wanted to bring her on here. She's doing some very powerful work, helping people align some very powerful ways. So definitely had to reach out to her and go ahead and get her on the show. Sister Riziki, are you out there?
I am. How are you, bro?
I'm doing good. No question. And right off the bat, I want to ask you, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Riziki Zafira. Yes, you did. You did wonderfully. Thank you.
Dope. Nailed it. All right.
Yeah.
That's what's up. The gymnasts when they do the backflip and they land it.
Yes,
cool.
Perfect 10.
Very cool. And I know you had some powerful workshops. I think just this past weekend and everything went well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I launched my online course, the Sacred Sexuality Rites of Passage program. It's both live and online, and pretty much what it is like, pretty much everything I wish I had when I was a child, understanding who we are as humans and how we're relating to each other, and then the lessons that my mom never taught, the lessons that my dad never taught. So, yeah, that got launched this week. There's definitely still time to enroll, but I do have some other events coming up they're called Intro to Tantra. So it's like what we bring to the community, Black Tantra Group ATL, Black Tantra Group NYC, and we're just opening up the doors for community members to understand the wholeness of Tantra. Excited for that.
Very cool. Well, you know what, Riziki, what I normally do is, I give people, a chance to hear about all of the great things you got going on. So this is great. I'm glad you got your online course. That's definitely taking things to the next level. And you just mentioned about the wholeness of Tantra. So what I want to do, I know we have all different type of levels of understanding that are going to be listening. Some people know what shamanism is. Some people know what Tantra is. Some people think they know what those two things are. And so and how do those two things go together? So could you explain in Riziki terms, what is shamanism, what is Tantra, and how do they all come together?
Sure. So for me, shamanism is understanding the spiritual forces that exist in the universe as well as the spiritual forces within ourselves, and it's communing with those forces, right? So like everything in creation has a particular intelligence behind it. It had a name, it had a vibration, and a lot of times we're going through life not being in tune with these frequencies and or trying to attune or align ourselves with things that really have historical, spiritual, foundational beginning. So shamanism is definitely being able to culturally tune in, and more so not being afraid to walk through the shadows. Like not everything is light and pillows and clouds. And so sometimes we have a certain kind of healing where we are going to have to walk through those shadows. We are going to have to walk through those darkness. And shamanism is that art of being brave enough, being empowered, to be able to walk through that and face the toughest, ugliest parts of yourselves. Now, as far as Tantra goes, so a lot of people hear that and they automatically associate it with sex, right? But for me, it's before that, there was a healing, there was a empowerment, there was a self-actualization, realization, a lot of shedding, clearing, and then came the explosive orgasms, and then came awesome experiences with sex. So, that's it's a life science, it's a lifestyle. So it's not helpful in my relationships with others, but with myself, with my finances, with my career, so. And I know many people may know, like, it's a Sanskrit word meaning loom or to weave light and sound. But from my background, I'm very much in tune with, my ancestral lineage. So we had a system called Phi Tai We, which was union of two lands, or union of the higher and lower self. And, this goes back since the beginning of time. So Tantra is a system that was made from modalities and tools that existed way before the word itself. So that's the Riziki-fied, definition.
I love it. I couldn't have said it better. I love it. You weaved, you Tantra, and put those together,
Yes, got to tantrify it.
And what? Yeah, you tantrified it right there. And one of the things I wanted to go in on that is, like, you mentioned the word shadow when you're talking about shamanism and whatever. What is that? Because shadows, I know a lot of times we're scared. We think of Jason and Freddy Krueger and shit. So talk of something about the shadows. What are the shadows, and how do we work with them? Yeah,
so for what just like there's light and dark, right? So the shadows, I feel, are the shame, the guilt, the fears that we don't want to face, right? It's the stuff that we continue to run away from. And it's like when we understand the other side of shame, guilt, and fear is freedom. It's love, it's truth, it's bliss, it's orgasmic energy. And a lot of times we are having challenges reaching that point because we're afraid to walk through the shadows. And I'm like, sometimes it's very necessary, and it's not meant for you to walk through it and stay there and, re-traumatize yourself, but find the lessons, find the empowerment. Sometimes I do what we call soul retrievals, where we sometimes go back to that time to regain the parts of yourself that was lost in that moment, especially when it deals with, like, childhood abuse or neglect or abandonment. So, yeah, some of our trauma, like, that happened during childhood, we're still stuck there. So we got to go back. We got to go back and free yourself.
Got it. I like analogy that just came to me while you were explaining that is, like, if we imagine that we have a room where the light is shining in and all of that, but there's certain places where an object might have been placed that's blocking the sun coming in. And so what the shadow work that you're helping people do is we go in and we move that object so now that the sun can hit the full room.
Exactly.
Nothing, without really passing a judgment on the object or anything like that. It's just moving it out.
Correct.
It doesn't need to be there anymore.
Right. It's no longer part of your story. And one thing that I realized, we develop ourselves based off our trauma, right? Or like when we go through certain things, we've allowed that experience. We created a part of ourselves based off of that traumatic experience. And I'm like, okay, well, is that your authentic self? Like, is that authentically you? The whatever parts of you that was developed based off of this pain, is that authentically you? And most likely no, because it's a defense mechanism, right? So therefore, our vulnerability, our openness, our transparency, our trust is tampered with. Got it.
The next place I want to kind of transition into is kind of talking a little bit about archetypes, because I felt like from what I came from your Instagram and then also your website is that you're doing the shamanistic tantra, working with archetypes. And I remember I read Ra'un Nefer Amin in the Medu Netir or Medu Netter. I've heard different pronunciations. He says that we often meet with failure when we're unable to bring forth the proper energy or the proper Orisha or the proper angel, if you will, the proper aspect
force.
of ourselves.
Yep.
Spiritual force, energetic force at the right time. So, for instance, when we're hot-headed but we need to be cool, we meet with failure. So can you explain how you tie all that into that, too?
Absolutely. So that in a part, well, that in itself, what you described is like what I call the anatomy of our consciousness, because we all, like you said, have faculties or archetypes or whatever, these spiritual forces that, because number one, we're limitless. Like, that's number one, right? Like, but before we even came into the realm, like our understanding is, you've seen Lucy, right? Like, And by the end of the movie, like she was limitless. And what happens is we come into this world and then we get limited by culture, race, class, and then experiences, and then, you know, all this other stuff. And sometimes these spiritual faculties in us that's meant for us to like have willpower or have confidence or have clarity or be able to strategically and logically think of things, it's damaged, right? Or it's not cultivated. It's not even tapped into. So then now we're going through life, right? We're trying to have relationships. We're trying to get promotions. We're trying to live our best life and fulfill our purposes, but yet we haven't cultivated the archetypes or the faculties needed in order for us to perform the task. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when we keep wondering why there's blockages, okay, well, in order, whatever tools you need to accomplish this, do you have that? It's kind of like you're, you know, like trying to become a psychologist, but you only graduated high school. Right. You know what I'm saying? You have to have cultivated certain parts of yourself. And this is what, you know, it's like know thyself. And when you know how limitless you are, and again, going back to the shamanism and why I feel culture is so important, like our ancestors left stuff for us to be able to tap in and tune into that, you know. And so, yeah, it like I said, it's a lifestyle. It's understanding the limitlessness of yourself. So the archetypes, definitely, they're very helpful, and not just the archetypes within us as spiritual forces, but also archetypes necessary to advance a civilization, to build a nation. That's very, very important.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I imagine that the forces that are used for nation building and for community building, it's a little bit different aspect or a grander scheme. More or less.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, like for instance, so there's certain ones like I call the scientist or the diplomat, right? And it's like, so I love the diplomat because it deals with emotional intelligence. Sometimes why I feel like, and we see it all the time, like not being able to accomplish things because we want to be in our feelings. We don't know how to just keep the bigger picture in mind. You know what I mean? And like, okay, the focus is this. Let me put my personal feelings aside and get the job done. So then when we deal with the scientists, it's like, you know, one thing I notice about, and I love my spiritual people, but sometimes we get so caught up in the clouds, we forget about we're still existing in the physical reality. So, like, how are we advancing society? You know what I mean? Like, the science, technology, engineering, and math is just as important as we what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we need that. Like, we just can't be all meditation is great and, oh, yeah, kumbaya. But we still have a whole civilization we need to advance. Our ancestors did it. Why are we at a standstill? What happened? What happened to the archetypes or the roles of society that made that, you know, conducive or some like an important part of our development?
Gotcha. Makes total sense to me. And using the approach that you are, whatever, to, you know, and like you're saying with the diplomat and the scientist, and these things are the engineer. These things are archetypes that are needed for culture building and for building the nation. And then also the archetypes that we have in ourselves, say again, going back to that part of us that is dynamic and maybe can be motivating or a catalyst, but we keep telling ourselves that we're shy. It's like, if we're shy, there's a time when maybe introspection and being off to ourselves is needed and good. But if we always put on our energy and just keep telling ourselves that I'm shy, or I'm hot, you know, I'm a type A personality, you know, but you might need to be cool in this situation. You're going to meet with failure, so that's what you're helping people with.
Exactly. And again, and like me for existence, right? Like, you know, I just had this certain kind of thing with myself, like this is just the way I am. But I'm like, okay, how is that working for you though? You know, that would limit me in certain things. And it's like, to be limitless means we can also be adaptable. It doesn't mean we have to be, you know, of the world, of our surroundings, but we know how to operate in it. So, Yeah, like, and, you know, using the sexual energy or just regular or life force energy, which is kind of all the same or whatever. But, you know, there's ways to activate certain parts of ourselves. And again, a lot of this information, a lot of this power is in our blood. It is in our cellular memory. It is in our spiritual self. So it's like we've lost that art, that science, that, you know. So that's, yeah, the archetypes is been phenomenal in my life. Like, yeah, phenomenal.
Love it. Very cool. And let's talk about, so I know with some shamanism, Riziki, you know, there's common tools that are used, like maybe plant medicine, singing, dancing, drumming, dream work.
Oh, yeah.
Do you tap in and use any of those things? And if so, how do you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So first off, I freaking love dance. Like, I trance when I dance, like, you know, and one of the things about women, I freaking love us, right? Because, you know, when you hear about the oracles or the sibyls or, you know, whatever, that is a way of channeling. Like, trance is a serious state that we need to be into in order to connect and heal. And orgasms, certain clients that I work with, I may suggest plant medicine, or I may suggest an actual mental health counselor, hypnosis. You know what I mean? It just depends on what to help us, you know. And I don't suggest to become dependent on the plant, because essentially we are the plant. Everything that all the medicine that shut us off and shut us down. So, you know, we got to have a little extra push there. So yeah, I embrace that. Yeah.
Got it.
Sweat lodges, sweat lodges. I do sweat lodges, drumming, all that stuff. Yeah.
Very powerful. And as far as the trance work, especially like you say with women, I want to touch more on that, because I feel like the innate ability of all human beings, but especially of those with you know, the feminine energy, when we're able to go into a very yin, a very receptive state. Can you speak more about the receptive state, about the trance-like state, and the power of that? Yeah,
so when we go into trance, like, okay, so here's another thing about active tantra that I call, like, active tantra, shamanistic tantra, because we also deal with science, right? And science says that we have these neurotransmitters, these neurochemicals that start happening in our brain when we hit certain peaks of pleasure. We have certain parts of our brain during trance. We have the ability to kind of infuse whatever intelligence that we want in these neurotransmitters, or what they're really called is dendrites. So one of the things that I teach in my course is the 7-11 body systems, and this is from the Akan tradition, where, because again, like you said, I did sidereal astrology, and, you know, understanding that there's just like there's an intelligence behind and in and all around the celestial bodies, it's the same thing within us. When I understood that, like, for instance, the sun, you know, the sun is like, the solar system kind of revolves around it. It is kind of, in a sense, the controller of things, right? Because without the sun, we can't see, things can't grow. So it's the same thing. That same function in your neurological system is the same. Like, if you're brain dead, there's not much you can do. There's not much you can't move. Your bodily functions stop. So it's like, again, when we're understanding that in our brain, when those neurochemicals start releasing, we have a power to tell it what to do, where to go. Like trance being this state of, like, wishing yourself good things during this moment. Tasting, seeing, feeling like the things you want to manifest. These are the messages it's sending to your body. One thing I love about, you know, how I learned Tantra, because it's not about a bunch of mystical stuff that has no scientific backing. It's not only backed by, this guy had a major download and was communicating. It's backed by science. Like, you know, and I think that's where it gets lost sometimes. Like, again, we get so caught up in the mystical part, we actually forget there's a scientific, logical part as well. And this is that balance
Well, and Riziki, I'm right there with you on that, because I believe at the time of I would say the neo guru, because true gurus, they never really was about self-promotion.
Correct.
About, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm mirroring, and you can do this yourself too. That would be a true guru's message. But the neo guru, the social media guru and that type of thing is like, follow and do as I do. But now also has played into to the major religions. So I love what you're talking about, is like embracing science. And I think that's a very key to take these tools and technologies to another level, and to make them more common for human consumption, if you will. One of the things that we have to do is embrace science and partner up with it and stop being at odds with it.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely have to embrace science. Again, it's definitely a vital part in our in our advancement, and again, we can kind of see what's been happening with different cultures who are more advanced in science versus in technology versus those that are not, and it's like we got to step our game up, and I feel like adversity, and we just had a little conversation today, like adversity happens for us to find our strength, to cultivate what it is we need to cultivate. And again, part of our duty here is to understand our primary function on this planet. And like you said, I'm not here to tell you to follow everything I do. Listen, what astrology taught me was that, yes, we did not all come here to do the same thing. We are ecology. Everybody is supposed to be doing different things to make the world go around, right? Like, one thing I loved about agriculture and farming was that I knew you can't put certain plants by this plant, and these bugs help this, and the compost, blah, blah, blah. They all work together to make it grow. So my work is helping people understand their divine function. The sun has a divine function, so does the moon. Why wouldn't you as a being have a divine function? Your heart doesn't do what your spleen does. Your spleen doesn't do what a uterus does. There's a divine function in everything. You know what I mean? So, and that's what I love, is helping people like discover that and their power in it, and then watching them see how you're going to contribute that to the community.
I love it. Amen. To everything you're saying there. And I love, I feel like what I'm getting from what you're saying with the shamanistic Tantra also is that it helps you still be an individual, but then also at the same time, without negating that at any means, you're also playing a part for the bigger picture as well.
Yes, and the generations to come, like, I say a lot where, and no disrespect to the elders, but like this mentality of, I'm old school and tradition. I'm like, again, how has that been working for us? You know what I mean? And the humans we are now, right? The humans we are now, we're not the same humans we was 2,500, 25,000 years ago. So, we're being born and tasked to evolve and contribute our work and our talent and our gifts to the world. But again, when we find ourselves in these environments and these moments that are impeding or like telling us our limits, like that's the issue, and we wouldn't need laws of man if we understood the laws within ourselves, like we learn to govern ourselves.
Totally, I agree. I've heard, different cultures, the ancient people of Kemet, or aka Egypt, and ancient Chinese and Indians and everything. They said that, you only need laws when people are not evolving. Then you need to tell people not to steal and not to do this or that.
Right.
So the person naturally has the innate ability to understand their connection to each other, nature, animals, plants, and to stay in the realm of, honoring all life, so, but, you're doing the work, to help bring us back to the remembrance of that, Riziki. So, I definitely appreciate you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I love it. It's been rewarding. It's helped me heal on so many levels, especially my work with men. And, my primary focus are men, because women already, we have so many outlets, we have so many spaces available for us to heal and empower ourselves and stuff like that. And then men, you know, it's kind of lacking in the area of vulnerability and transparency because a lot of men suffer in silence. I was watching this video the other day about Christ Bearer, the guy who, like, chopped off his own penis. And then I was like, whoa, you know, what? Wow. Yeah, he was a rapper, guy on the West Coast, And, like, and see, here's the crazy part. If I was to chop off somebody else's penis, I go to jail. But that man chopped off his own penis. You know what I'm saying? So, like, he, and the reasoning by that was, you know, he lost his mother. The children he had, he wasn't able to see. He had restraining orders. Mind you, he was doing drugs and all this other stuff. But mental health, he was depressed. And especially amongst men and the African-American community, mental health is something that we don't take into consideration, which is another thing I do bring into my work. I partner with certified and licensed mental health counselors because a lot of people are coming into this work not knowing you have PTSD, bruh. You done been molested. You grew up in a hood. You done seen somebody shot and killed, or you got out the military. Whatever, bro. There's some PTSD going on. You know, like laying on a table and orgasms isn't going to solve all of that. You actually need some mental help. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, and our men, like I said, I have such a soft spot because, you know, between the molestation, the emasculation, just being a black man and having to fear for your life almost every day, that shit is stressful. Right.
Oh, hell yeah. It's a lot to bear, a major cross to bear for each and every one of us, you know, the man, the woman, each one of us have our own unique, you know, struggles, and I'm glad that you're doing this work and you understand this for people. I love everything you were saying there too. One other thing I want to touch on that though is like what you're saying, that this is not of itself, you know, the be all have all, like the work that you do, that you're taking a holistic approach with and working with mental health and things like that. So Riziki, how can people follow up with you if they want to learn more? I know you got some dope workshops. I'm looking forward to meeting you and the workshop that you, Courtney Garner, and Dwayne Mooney and myself are going to be doing. So how can people learn more about what you're doing and tie into?
Sure. So my website, www.Riziki Zafira, RIZIKIZAFIRA.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, Riziki Zafira, Facebook, Riziki Zafira, and also Black Tantra Group of ATL, Black Tantra Group of NYC. So just hit me up. You can definitely call or email or message to learn more about my work. And, I definitely hope to see you all at one of the upcoming events.
Dope. Well, you know, this is definitely, again, is an honor. Looking very present to meeting you. Oh, no question. No question, sis. No question. And, again, family, we appreciate and love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. And, again, this is Faux Show Holistic Health on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shophar, from Faux Show Energy Work. Y'all keep shining, keep climbing. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Peace.